Are we on? A 22 RG with a 6-inch barrel.
The one you had here the other day?
Huh?
That little one you had here the other day?
I don't believe I've had it here.
Well, I showed me one yesterday.
Huh?
You showed me one yesterday.
Yeah, show you a little RG with a 6-inch barrel?
It was a little 22 revolver.
Oh, no, this is, yes, 23 revolver, yeah.
Well, we're talking about guns. Your Bob's notorious for dropping his gun in the middle of the conversation.
We're on the subject of the Second Amendment. We can continue. Welcome, folks. The 31st day of March 2015. The significant day will go down in history as the day that we took the Iranian zone and lost.
Now, Bob, don't you think we're going to really come out in this agreement, a treaty, or whatever they want to call it?
Obama has got to be the smartest man in the world. He has engineered here in this country an economic recovery that feels exactly like a depression. And he has been able to snatch defeat from victory.
From the jaws of victory.
Yeah, snatch defeat from victory in a number of countries in the Mideast, and he's just about to give the whole store away to Iran.
Well, I can't figure out. Yeah, I can. Generally, people are stupid. And everybody, the majority of the people reporting the news are reporting it in his favor, but anybody with any common sense has got to know this has got to be the worst president we've had in my lifetime. You know, I thought Nixon was a scoundrel, but he did it. He didn't burn the tapes.
I told him Saturday that was not Barack Obama in office out there. And Jerry said, well, who is that? I said, what's the name of that fellow that wrote the Three Musketeers? He says, Alexander Dumas. I said, Dumas? I said, I've been pronouncing it wrong. I said, how do you spell that? He said, D-U-M-A-S. I said, that's where I went wrong. I've been putting two S's on the end of Dumas.
Well, that makes sense.
Right. So,
well, I'm going to tell you, the Dumases are electing him.
Huh?
Dumas family elected him.
That's who elected him, said that right. And I heard somebody, a bellyache the other day, says, I just can't believe I was dumb enough to vote for him the first time and dumb enough to vote for him the second time.
Well, what about the third time? You reckon they'll vote for him again?
He voted for him the second time.
Well, what about the next time?
You think he's going to run again in the form of Hillary Clinton?
Well, there's that part too.
They may have a sex change and come back as Barack Obama.
Right, Obama.
Be me.
Oh, Lord.
Well, fellas, do you reckon he's keeping up on his golf game?
On what?
His golf game?
No, what?
Obama, you reckon he's keeping up with his golf game with all this stuff that's going on, you know?
I doubt it. I doubt it very seriously.
Well, he's keeping up with the basketball.
Yeah, yeah. You would think he was a basketball player where he jogs down the step of Air Force One. I wish
About fell down the other day, didn't he?
I wish at my age and my bad leg, I'd like to get him hemmed up on a basketball court one time.
Well, it wouldn't hurt to hem him up in the back alley or two.
You know, hem him up anywhere is what I'd like to do. You know,
we don't consider this a threat. We want to shake his hand when we get him.
You know, he has no common sense.
Shake his hand.
And I hate to say this, we have elected the only blithering idiot in the history of this country.
No, he's not.
You don't think he blithers?
No, he is accomplishing just what he set out to do.
Right, yeah.
Are we going up to see Fred Thompson next week?
Well, I've got an invite.
What's Fred going to do? Just talk?
Talk.
Or up at the college?
I got tickets.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I'm kind of got a situation, you know what I'm talking about, and I'll just see where I'm at. If a worthy person shows up, I'll surrender my place or whatever.
There ain't no worthy people to run around with us.
Well, you know, there ain't but three of us left, and I ain't too sure about you two.
Fellas, you know, we can talk in what we call facetious, but the line is supposed to be drawn on the calendar. I reckon they don't draw it in the sand anymore. As of 12 o'clock tonight.
No, 6 p.m. our time.
Is that our time?
6 p.m. our time.
Okay, I hadn't thought about that aspect of it.
What happened?
Well, that's whenever we finalize this agreement with Iran.
Well, that's the
Have they put it off
finalize.
again?
That's the finalize the framework.
Shoot, man.
Hey,
I
that's the
believe you dropped
finalize the framework of an
Well-
agreement. But now they have extended that through June. Okay, and see all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, all the time there are no inspections of Iran's nuclear capabilities, and boy, they're just plowing ahead. So when they ever do get down to the final deadline, that's why they're negotiating now. No
We
more.
got the bomb.
We already got the bomb, you
Yeah.
know. And
Now let's negotiate on what you're gonna pay us not to use it.
right,
Yeah, we're gonna blackmail for whatever.
I'm glad we wasn't on the airwaves.
Yeah, I would almost thought you. Did you have to open your book up to find that word? You did.
what word was that?
Man, when I dropped that coffee.
Hey, mercy. But I didn't know. I figured they would change it because so far I haven't seen this country, and when I say that, I'm talking about the leaders thereof.
You know
Stating
John
anything.
Kerry, who he really is. You ever looked at him good? He's really Boris Karloff.
Well,
We put that off on those stories.
I don't try to look too close. I look more at what people do than what they're.
Well, he looks more like Frankenstein if you go by what he
He
does.
looks like Fred the Monster to me.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
His name
Well,
Herman. Monster.
Herman.
Fred Gwynn.
How about
Well,
Herman
fellas,
Munster?
That was his name.
This I wasn't aware that they had moved it, but I kind of figured they would
Well, I
because
think they did it today.
anything we say, this country says, or whatever, nobody takes it serious anymore. I mean,
Well,
if
you
we-
know what somebody said last night on television? I agree with them. You've got, 5 countries other than Iran, 6 with us, 6 in Iran,
Yeah.
is that right? And they said you had these 5 countries and the United States was there representing Iran.
it
And I
just
believe
makes no
that.
sense. It makes no sense. None of it
Yeah,
does.
we're there representing Iran.
I kind of thought a long time ago the solution to this problem would be is just to go ahead and send Iran a bomb.
Well,
And
I'd
this-
do them like they did Saddam Hussein. I'd say, can you hear me now?
You could send one with the technology we've got, triggering device. There's all sorts of things could be done.
Oh, you could. Well, I do like Ronald Reagan. You know, when he come into
Yeah.
office, he'd always sent word to him he was going to make a parking lot out of Tehran. If they didn't turn them prisoners loose or our hostages loose.
They turned them loose the day he was inaugurated,
Right,
didn't they?
yeah.
While
He
he was
told
being
me-
inaugurated, they was
Told me he
being
was going to make
released.
a parking lot out of Tehran.
Well, like I say, none makes no sense. But why do we put on the charade that we're doing? It's like carryover. It's a waste of time. Their centrifuge, and I've said this before, back about a year or so ago, or maybe longer than that. I guess it was about 18 months ago or something like that. With the number of centrifuge they had, they could produce the bomb in 18 months.
And that's what they're going to do, talk
well,
for 18 months.
No, you don't hear the rest of it though. Right after that, they increased their centrifuge numbers by 300%.
Right.
Okay, if you've got 18 months,
It
well,
was 6, don't it?
you cut it down to 6 months,
Right.
and that's been a year ago.
I don't believe they've got it yet because them Jews have done bombed the hell out of them.
Well, it's possible.
That's the
But-
only thing. That's the only thing that's going to stop me is whenever the Jews decide to do it.
I think we ought to give Israel all the support they need. I think we ought to help them knock out the air defenses and everything else, and let them come over and boom them.
Well, you know,
Gentlemen, let me ask you a question. Hypothetically speaking, what if Cuba was sitting down there right now putting together a nuclear bomb, and we knew about it, and they were sitting over telling us what they're going to do with it as soon as they got it? How do you think we would respond?
Well, I know what we did last time because I was in Florida when they thought about shipping those nuclear
well, they were
missiles
shipping them.
in. Huh?
Sure were. They were shipping them in.
Yeah, they were on the boats. They headed for Cuba.
you know, they had some of them set up.
They had some of it set up.
Yeah.
But anyhow, that Israel, if nobody stands with Israel, Israel will stand alone because they have no choice. And they will defend themselves. They've proved that in the past.
You know, they have the atomic bomb.
Right? They sure do. And there's probably a lot of stuff that we're not aware of, like strategic weapons or something like that, something that you can send out there that'll
No, they don't tell everybody what they're going to do like Obama does. You know, he's going to tell you, we're going to be here 10 more months, and then you can have this place.
Right. Seems to me like we're in kind of a deep situation. There's not anything that the general public in this country is going to be able to do about it.
Well, I hate to say it, but when he was elected, you know what I said? There goes the neighborhood.
Well, fellas, we're here for the rides, what we are.
Well, I don't care no more myself.
Yeah, I think I'll go out there and dig me a little 12-foot underground unit. And
Well, I've got out here and argued to beat back building codes and beat back regulations and stuff, and there ain't been but 2 or 3 people, present company included, that ever stood with me whenever they come back on me. And them people that's a suffering now was a sitting at home a laughing at us, and whenever they won't let them build their building or they won't let them do something else, let them get by. Damn it, we done had our fight.
I heard that the city has brought up, and I don't know who made the proposal, that they're going to come down on the yard sales again, or whatever.
Well, that's what got Cliff elected the first time. It might get Mike unelected.
Well,
you mean setting up throughout the city?
I heard the discussion on it, and I kind of got a kick out of it. You know, when they get into discussion, it goes off in all directions, and it brought up gambling joints, our Fire Ladies of the Evening, and you name it, just whatever. Everything came up.
Right.
But there was no enforcement on all the other stuff that goes on. But they was going to be able to enforce this thing to where that you could only have a yard sale
once a year.
Well, once a month. You had to get a permit and whatever. And I thought, what a person ought to do is they ought to get on with this here program with the city and go down there and say, well, yeah, we need to restrict that, and anybody that's going to have a yard sale must put in porta potties or allow access to their private bathrooms. You know, if you come there and you need to do something, you ought to be able to go in the house. And then before that, though, the inspector should have to come in and inspect the facilities
Make
to make
sure you got toilet paper.
Yeah, make sure it's the right fiber and and test it maybe to be sure.
Right.
And
of course,
just pile on with them.
What's the reason? They ain't getting no revenue out of it?
Well, I don't know. I don't care what you do.
What it is that people don't spend at these stores locally.
I tell you what you can do. If you want to have a yard sale, you go ahead and get your old clothes and your other junk, and then you set a few riding lawnmowers up around the outside. You don't have to have a license to sell lawnmowers or work on them.
Well,
okay, good.
The thing,
you know, the problem is, they'll have to make you have porta potties because they can't go to the public library to the bathroom.
Well, yeah.
Well, they can for number one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
That was one of them city inspection jobs, wasn't it?
Did I I don't know if you fellas saw the program of they had a talk show on last Wednesday, and the ex-vice mayor of the county, who is now wanting to be he is the ex-city administrator, wants to be the present administrator.
Was he the vice mayor? Or just assistant mayor?
Well, he's a deputy, wasn't he?
Yeah,
of the county?
but he wasn't a vice mayor.
Of the county?
Yeah. Deputy mayor or something.
Okay. He runs the
Assistant
thing.
mayor, yeah.
Anyhow, he had mayor with something in front of it.
Yeah.
But anyhow, he came on the, they had this thing set up on the call show to where that he was to call in or whatever. They expect him or expect him to be there. And you could tell the whole thing was set up like you wouldn't believe.
You think we ought to call in and make a list of all the things he's done from my perspective?
No, they won't take your call.
Well,
They probably won't.
I kind of watched the clock a little bit, and it's something like 15 minutes that he told all of the accolades and accomplishments he had done, and most of them I was familiar with.
Of course, the host didn't question anything on him, did he?
Oh, no, But anyhow, see, I've got to be careful what I say here, because I'm open for lawsuit. I've been told that I will be sued if or whatever, you name it. But anyhow,
That way you could get that on tape recorder, is it?
well, it's recorded or whatever. I'm talking. You talk about suing me?
Yeah.
No, one of them was stated in the courthouse, and I said a word that I shouldn't have, and I thought I'd got in trouble, but I didn't. But anyhow, that's beside the...
They misunderstood you, didn't he? Like whenever an Adrian Beard.
Yeah, I have to take that off the record. But anyhow, I kind of lost my chain of thought. Anyhow, I had to listen. See, I don't think he breathed for 15 minutes. I think he rolled on and on for 15 solid minutes. It seemed like he did.
I'd say he'd get the job.
You don't think he took a draw off a doobie? That's where he learned how to hold his breath some good.
When he started off, I seen he always starts off with this thing that he never watches these shows. You know what I'm saying? I don't have cable, and WLAF don't get out to where I live. Now, you know WLAF right now, since they went to FM, has got pretty good coverage.
Yeah.
But anyhow, besides
We're
the
on
point.
the internet.
Oh,
We
yeah.
don't exist anyway.
Now, but anyhow, he gave the indication that he wasn't listening to the show or didn't whatever. He just called in. You know what I'm
I
saying?
can get it in Miami.
Well, okay. Or out
Maybe
there.
he ain't smart enough to know how.
Well, I ain't.
Oh, he's the smartest thing there's ever been in the poly.
But
I wonder why people are so, why they're just so in love with David G. I don't know nothing he's ever done that's been a success.
Well, anyhow,
But I ain't gonna talk about it.
the thing.
Legal.
Oh, sorry.
The thing.
Me too.
There was a neighbor somewhere up there of his, or not of his. I'm sorry, I'm wrong. There was somebody. I got to word this thing right, because I'll get in trouble if I ain't careful. There was somebody. Whenever they heard the call come in, they jumped in a vehicle and just run right out the road a little bit there to see up at Brother Cliff's. You know Cliff Jennings, the ex-mayor of
the one that we retired, and he tried to claim he retired.
And then we got worse than we had.
Yeah,
but anyhow, somebody.
Where's Cliff when we need him?
Anyhow, somebody made a little quick trip, and guess whose truck was sitting at Cliff's?
He just parked it there.
Yeah, that's what he did. He don't get the show. He don't watch it. He don't listen to none of it. But I guarantee if he knows we're on right now, he'll be taping it, I'm sure. But anyhow.
It'll be on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, he can get it there. He don't have to do that. He can get there. But anyhow, why couldn't he just say, hey, I'm over here at Cliff's, and we've been watching your show. Why not just do that? Why not come right straight out?
Oh, no, don't you know that, what was the center's name up here at Oneida? Baker.
Yeah.
Baker, his 13th commandment was tell the truth whether you have to or not. Cliff and David's 13th
What was the first 12?
Yeah, their 11th commandment is never tell the truth when you don't have to.
But anyhow, it's a joke. The whole thing is, and if previous behavior is any indication of future behavior, we'll most likely see some more of what we've seen in the past. Let me put it that way. And what we've seen.
Well, now you look in, let's see, in 54, you had 6,000 people here in La Pali, 1954. Here, 46, 61 years later, we have gained exactly, 2 people a year?
I don't know.
I think that's right, 2.5 people a year in La Pali. While these other towns have grown by leaps and bounds, we haven't even kept pace.
This area, along with a lot of areas that run the radius of Oak Ridge, we're getting a fair amount of our whatever economics we've got that keeps this place together is coming out of Oak Ridge, and that is coming out of the government. And
well, then the other part is coming from Washington, D.C. in the form of disability and welfare payments.
Well, you've got that.
And food stamps.
In order, and this is old stuff, in order for a place to thrive or whatever, they have to produce goods that they can sell. And after you sell goods at a profit, then whoever's making the profit will turn around and pay for services and other things. I read an article, and I hadn't heard this thing, but Oak Ridge got $1.9 billion in this shovel-ready money.
Who?
Oak Ridge did.
I don't think about any road signs.
There's another thing. More roads. Hey, we ought to go to the county and the city and demand more road signs, letting us know that we're going the right direction, and if there's an intersection.
I'd like to put them all along the road there at my house, and then I'd string some wire on them.
There you go. Fence your goats in.
Yeah, ain't
there
got
you
no
go.
Goats. I wised up. I didn't want to follow the same the same criminal path as my cohort over there.
If you stop and think about it, we're not too smart by trying to defend people's freedoms and their rights and the Constitution and whatever.
They defend their own.
What we ought to do is start piling on. Pile on everything. I don't care what it is. Get a movement or so many people. I guarantee you we'd get thousands of people to sign on that the government needs to put in orange juice lines so we can have orange juice on tap.
Well, yeah.
And, just name it. All sorts of things. Suck up money. And another thing is have everybody in the county that can write grants for money, to get free money.
All right, let me digress here just a little bit. There's always so much criticism of people who have made big money and who have amassed big fortunes. Mm-hmm. Now, the Melinda Gates Foundation, is her name Melinda?
Yeah.
Is that her name?
Bill and Melinda. Bill and Melinda.
Yeah, okay. Foundation. They over in Africa, a group of people over there who exist primarily off bananas and things of that nature.
I think that's racist. I think that's racist.
Well, but what it is, the children
I didn't even
go
catch
blind.
that. I'm partial to bananas.
The children go blind at an early age because of lack of vitamin A in their diet. Okay, so this Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation had your geneticists to engineer a banana that would accumulate a large amount of vitamin A in it, and they started the program. They give certain village elders 5 of these engineered banana plants with a stipulation that each one of them give 5 more plants to somebody else when they say, had you heard of that? And they are well on the way to curing the problem of blindness over there.
But they've got the same solution. You know what golden rice is?
Yeah, what?
Golden rice.
Yeah.
It's a genetically engineered rice that contains vitamin A, and the whole world is down on this GM food. Now, how could Bill Gates get by with it? It's because he's a left-wing radical, or?
Who?
Gates, he's a lefty too. How's he get his genetic food in there?
See, that's your people who are hell-bent on destroying the Western society that's come up with that.
They're also buying mosquito nets for these people over there getting malaria. And they could take a few pennies and spray the walls twice a year and wouldn't need the nets if they let them use DDT.
Right, that's true. But just think about them fragile eagle eggs.
There's a thing, the Hussein Obama signed an executive order here back a few weeks ago stating that all government vehicles or whatever had to cut down or cut their emissions by 40%. What is that? 2020?
If it make them rascals walk, they wouldn't have so much emission.
Right.
Okay. Now, here's the thing that I don't understand about the president or anybody else in common sense. And this goes back to something I've said before. You can only squeeze a certain amount of energy out of a drop of fuel or drop of gasoline or anything.
A few years ago, the Navy was buying, and still is, I'm sure, biodiesel for $27 a gallon.
Okay.
And some of them ships they've got gets like 48 gallons to the mile.
Running in an aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
Well, your aircraft carriers, most of them now are nuclear. But there's another problem with that, too. Anyhow, let me get back to this.
Okay.
Whenever the government says this class of vehicle must get so many miles per gallon or whatever else.
You need one of these.
But I'll tell you what, I hope.
Huh?
But
right.
You need one of them.
Yeah, I'm going to take that off of it.
But here's, if our government, and I'm going to go back to our national laboratories like Oak Ridge and the one out in Los Alamos and all the other places, these national laboratories. Why does the national laboratory not invent an engine and say, here's this and this and this, rather than saying, hey, truck company, engine company, you got to meet this standard? They've got all the technologies. They've got the supercomputers. They've got everything that they could draw this out if it's feasible.
And most of them people never had to get out there and solve a problem.
Well, just like
they just ride
Hussein,
on for more money.
Obama writing down an executive order stating that everything must meet this standard by this year. He could say, well, heck, they cut it by 80%,
right,
or cut it by 100%.
That would be walking.
Well, that would work.
Figured out,
but
if they cut it by 28% by 2025,
no, 40%.
Well, no, I'm not talking about government vehicles.
Okay.
I'm talking about the overall pollution or the
CO2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That would amount to 1/200th of one part of the problem.
Seems to me like with the technology that we are supposed to have, if we've got it, that these national labs could spit out solutions to every problem we've got. You could run that into that supercomputer and it could say, bang, bang, here's what you need.
So you got to realize you got to have an incentive to do that.
Well,
and the profit motive is what I'm sure made Chrysler Corporation, the Dodge, people make Dodge trucks, come out with a half-ton pickup that will get 29 miles to the gallon.
Well, I tell you what, I heard or read recently. Now, there was a fella told me the way to solve the garbage pickup problem, start buying garbage, and I thought that was about the most brilliant thing I'd ever heard of. But another guy said that the reason they had a water shortage out in California and the West Coast is that it was government run, and that makes sense. If they would turn it over to free enterprise, we would be building pipelines from the Great Lakes to California, and
Sure
we would be turning a profit, and it'd end up cheaper than it is now, and they'd have plenty of water. We ain't out of water, it's just in the wrong dead gum place.
Right.
It's the wrong
But
location.
you couldn't get a pipeline approved.
If
No,
you
not for water, it might spill. Might spill and drown the tadpoles.
That's right, might get something wet.
if you go back into the physics of the thing, there's exactly the same amount of water on Earth as there has ever been.
I'd argue there's more.
Well, there may be, because we may be picking up like a
They claim there's ice falls into Earth.
comes into
Yeah.
gravity pulls it
Yeah.
in. But anyhow, the point I was getting at, whenever they say there's a shortage of water, like you say, there's a water shortage in that place, in that location. There's not a shortage of water, it's where it's located. Because water does not leave. Whenever it turns to steam or whatever, it's evaporated, it goes up and comes back down. So it don't never go away.
Well, if they'd turn it over to free enterprise, they'd be hauling icebergs down from the Arctic, and they would be desalinating seawater. They'd solve the problem in 10 years.
That iceberg is fresh water anyhow.
Yeah.
Huh?
And they took one. Where was it? They took one floated that time.
Yeah, selling that
They
sucker.
took one
selling.
from South
South
Pole to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And they were
Sure
selling
did.
the fresh water
Yeah,
off
and they
of
was
it.
out there chipping them off and putting it in their martinis.
Yeah.
Only them
You might
Arabs
want to have
don't
a
drink.
martini.
Them Arabs don't drink.
Right.
Well-
They're having them virgin martinis.
Virgin martinis. But what it gets back to, if like building a vehicle or a machine or a piece of equipment, it takes a certain amount of energy to move a certain amount of weight a certain height,
Right.
what we call horsepower
Right.
or whatever else.
Right.
The only thing that I see that we can do in the future is to continue to make vehicles lighter.
Well, that's
Because
what Ford did. They produced.
That's what they did right there.
Yeah, 700 pounds lighter on the 150 this year.
That's right. And that's
Alcoa aluminum.
yeah, well, Alcoa.
All we gotta do is fill the tires full of helium.
Right.
Or,
there you
or why don't we
Well,
just
On top of that, have you been reading anything about our shortage on
Helium?
rare earth?
metals?
You know,
Yeah.
China has cornered the market on rare earth, and all of our guidance systems for our entire defense mechanism is dependent on rare earth.
And we've got plenty of it, but can't dig it up.
Right.
Well-
Well, they hadn't turned a profit yet. They have opened up a mine out there.
But the reason they've not turned a profit is it takes them 30 years to get approval to dig a hole.
Exactly right. But you know they have made magnets out of rare earth that will pick up 1,000 times their own weight.
Mm-hmm.
That means you can just point it at something, turn it loose, and
Right,
run hell
yeah,
out of it, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And,
Well, what you're talking about there, like this, like the magnets. Now, see, you may have forgot about it, but you was telling me about a theory of perpetual motion using magnets. Do you remember that?
Well, I don't know.
Where-
I know
okay.
that they tried to do that. but
Okay, to where that a magnet picks something up
well, you
and
can
then
do
something.
that, but
Just like picking
what
up
I
nails.
told you was, if you could find a way to block magnetism,
Right.
you have
You could
invented perpetual motion, but there's no way to block
right,
magnetism.
perpetual motion, less friction. There's going to be a certain amount of friction involved.
I know, but if you could get a magnet that you could turn on and off, and I'm not talking about an electromagnet, I'm talking about a rare earth magnet.
That you could break the
If you
magnetism.
could pick something up and slide a paper under it, between it,
Right.
that didn't require a lot of force,
Right.
and it'd fall, and then you could do it again and it'd fall, you'd have a perpetual motion machine right there.
Well, Well, possibly.
But you can't get anything that'll block a magnetic field that does not expend more energy than you release when you block it.
Right, yeah.
But the other,
that perpetual motion is going to have to operate something, which is going to have some friction.
Well, I know, but the friction's not a problem with all that free energy, but you ain't no free energy.
Right. There's no
You
such
can get
thing.
frictionless if you want to. You can go down to several hundred, 200 or 300 degrees below zero, and you can go frictionless. In fact, they're using that on suspended trains now, and using liquid nitrogen. But the other part of the story is, Digger has got in some of his new late model hickory flavored grill gas.
Right, I bet he has. I saw him poking that stuff in his big tank the other day.
562-5444 right in the middle of the road.
5444.
Right in the middle of the road in Sawmill Holler, and get your gas grilled up, grill gassed up, as well as everything else you got runs on gas.
That's right. And like I say, he'll furnish the matches except for that mechanism I had that time.
Yeah, I don't blame him. And if you need to repair your truck or your car or your lawnmower or your weed eater or your rotor tiller, need a new spark plug, go up and see Randy at Spradlin's 562
2529 or 562-9406.
Yeah, but don't call the mayor.
Right. Now go ahead and dial 562-2526 and tell him that you want to place an order to Napa Auto Parts.
Yeah. They're right
You might
across
as well
from
make him
Iga.
good for something.
Yeah, you might as well. Well, they're busy exploring them there Olympic swimming pools and them dog walk parks. Oh, did you see you see what's happened to the walking trail up there where it crosses the road?
it's got a little blemish in it.
That's got a big blemish in it.
I thought it had a little blemish in it.
Yeah, they're going to have to come out and redo that.
Yeah.
That's the only bad spot up there is where they got that there painted sidewalk, that painted road through there.
Yeah, I believe that.
You go carry your couch out of windows and trip and fall and break your neck.
Fellas, as time goes, we may not have money to waste in that manner. I believe that was a $60,000 project right there.
What was that?
That crosswalk where you cross at downtown.
Main Street?
Yeah.
They paid $60,000 for a paint job?
Well, the whole thing I think ran about $60,000. And like I say, there's a lot of things that makes no sense to me.
Well, it makes sense to me. It's other people's money.
Well, there's that part.
They probably going to have to hire somebody to sit down there and count the people walking on that trail. You won't have to have a high school education because the count will never get that high.
Or you can punch a button and get them on the counter.
Yeah. And of course they're going to have a new pedestrian bridge down alongside Beach Street.
They'd have to have two people. They'd have to have one to make sure the other didn't go to sleep,
Right, there you go.
waiting on somebody to come walking.
Right.
Eh, mercy.
We could just put up a sign whenever you cross the road, punch a button. Then we can hire somebody to go out there and see how many buttons they push. That would be good. That way they could take most of the day off.
They would do that, but they figure somebody to steal the button.
I hadn't thought about it.
This is where what I was saying about where you start piling on. This might be what a person needs to be doing, is piling on.
I think I done been piled on myself.
Yeah, the things that we can't afford really. But let me go back to this thing like Oak Ridge. Now, see, I heard nothing about this shovel-ready money that was poured into Oak Ridge, and it's hard. Whenever they put a B after money, or after the dollar sign in a billion, whenever you think about $999 million plus that much again, how many millionaires is that? That's a lot of millionaires of money.
100 million per
yeah, 1,000 million to get a billion.
Right.
Okay, this was almost 200,000 million. But anyhow, I didn't find out about it until there was an article in the paper that stated that they had $1 million or so left over. They've spent or managed to invest this, and they stated that a lot of it has been spent on cleanup to try to clean up a lot. And if this goes back into the cost of nuclear energy, they say nuclear energy is the cheapest that there is, but if we're talking about where we came from and how much waste we've got to clean up, and some of it we may never get cleaned up.
All they need to do is get things straight and take it over and put it in Yucca Mountain.
Well, now Yucca Mountain, they're not clearing it, and I told you about
run them out of Yucca Mountain.
Well, I told you about their storage. I believe it's in New Mexico, where they had the accident, and nobody's saying anything about it.
Right.
It's sitting there, and I don't know what the status is because, like I say, there's nothing coming out in the news about it.
What accident?
They had an accident down there on our waste storage place, and I believe it's New Mexico.
Yeah.
And they came out with 3 stories on it. The first one was that a forklift had punctured one of the containers, and then their next story was
Must have been one of them guys that worked for me driving.
may have been. But the next story was that they had one of their machines, a piece of equipment, and my understanding it was a truck, and I'm not sure about it, but they did say equipment caught fire. Then their next story on it was that they had a roof collapse. But anyhow,
Too much snow.
well, this is underneath the mountain.
Huh?
This is underneath the mountain, under a salt
Too
mines
much
or
snow
something.
on top of the
Yeah, it may
mountain.
have been. But anyhow, according to the paper, it was going to be about, I want to say about 6 months or something like that before they could go back in to try to work or evaluate. Of course, you could send a robot or something. But when they started,
Now, a politician would be better.
well, when they didn't have suits capable of protecting them in the situation that they had under there. Okay, it took a certain period of time to build equipment for the people to go back in. When they went back in, they had to pull right back out because the suits were still not sufficient to protect them. So that thing is sitting out there now, and all of our nuclear waste that was being sent to there is staying on site and backing up now. And the last article I read,
Can't they reprocess those rods, those spent rods?
well, part of the last thing I read, other than the politics part of the thing, is Oak Ridge has a site down there, and I believe they call it 9212, a building. And this building was used during the Manhattan Project, and the equipment, whatever, to enrich uranium. Now, the United States government, and I like the word they used, they said has challenged Oak Ridge to crank this thing back up and produce 2,200 pounds of enriched uranium per year. Okay?
Using the excess spent fuel.
Yeah, they're going to take fuel that has been spent somehow and redo or whatever, reprocess it or something, or maybe further enrichment. But anyhow, the article also states that the building has been there for 2 decades, not being used or whatever, it's just sitting there.
Do you realize it was not built under building code?
Well, of course, it must not have, because it said the roof panels are falling out of it. But yet, it goes on to state that in its heyday, when this thing was working, like a well-greased machine, it never produced 2,200 pounds a year in its best performance.
Right.
So now the government has challenged them to produce this amount, 2,200 pounds per year.
Have better ways of doing it now than they did 2 decades ago.
Well, if they've got the same equipment, the same building, and the equipment is set for 20 years, and it's never produced that much, they must have some real updates or improvements if they're going to do it.
Some updated equipment, yeah.
Seems kind of far-fetched to me.
Well, but see, they challenged them to open up a new processing operation in an old building. They didn't say you had to use all the old equipment.
Well, that was my understanding, that there was going to use the equipment there. They was crank that equipment up.
I wouldn't think so.
Well, what we think, and I'm just going by what I've read.
Right.
If the building's all they're going to use, rather than the equipment.
Well, they might use some, might use some valves, they might use some of the things like that, but there'd probably be a different way to process it today, 20-some years later. Maybe we could get Iran to process it for us.
Yeah, we might could do that. Yes, let's go back to Iran. All the talk I'm hearing is that this agreement that Curry is putting together is a verbal agreement.
We don't want to write it down.
Well, they're not going to write it down, not going to put it in writing. Now,
They put it out for June now.
you know, that's what we should have done to the Constitution. We should have made a verbal
Well, we don't
agreement.
pay attention to it anyway.
That's right. But whenever I hear about a verbal agreement, especially if you got two countries that speak different languages.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I mean, you talk about, there's something I'm missing here. How you can have an agreement like this, and it verbal. What about,
You know what Yogi Berra said, don't you?
which one?
He said that a verbal agreement wasn't worth the paper it's wrote down on.
Well, that's about the size of it. What happens to our verbal agreement that whoever made the agreement gets amnesia? I know people that have lost their memory.
Some of it on purpose.
Well, I never heard of no such thing.
They put it on their emails that somebody might wipe their server clean.
The only it makes no sense. Not any of it does to me.
Right.
I wish somebody explained it to me.
Right.
But maybe we're not supposed to understand.
Well, you know, I just, you know, it just blows my mind the way they do things now. And the things they do. Not only that, the way they do them, but what they do.
Well, people put up with it. When it was time to stop it, they put up with it, and now they have to live with it. The only people I feel sorry for was the people that was out there trying to stop it and couldn't get no
When
help.
Obama came in office, Syria had, not Syria, but Libya had given up their atomic material. They're over at Oak Ridge now, what we hadn't used, shipped elsewhere. Egypt was stable. Iraq, we had achieved victory in Iraq. You had Syria was controlled by Bashar, whatever his name is, Bashar
Assad.
Assad. Yemen.
Looks like that name's one of them people, John and George, don't it?
Yemen was not the problem it is now. Iran, you know, the only thing Iran is lacking right now, sanctions hadn't had all that much effect, but all they're really needing now is a robust economy. And then they'll take over all the Mideast.
Whenever Obama went in, the first thing that Iran done, the people said we can get some help getting out from under this tyranny, and they went out and marched in the streets,
Right,
and Obama said, I can't hear you. I don't want to get involved in the
He
Middle
didn't
East.
want to get involved, yeah.
That's the only time, but he ain't stuck his nose in something.
Right.
And if that one opportunity had to make something better, and he wouldn't get involved. But now I think the man, you know, they talk about him being a Muslim and stuff. I really think he went in there with the intention of turning the world over to the Muslims. I swear I do.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing else explains it.
Right, and we're talking about the African Muslims, not the Mideast Muslims of Iran. But he's doing a pretty good job there.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we're about to anoint or crown possibly Hillary Clinton as the next president, and that is the most lying, deceitful person that I have seen in American history in a long time. She even out lies of Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi. Did you hear they were reconstituting Solyndra?
Yeah, I heard they was bringing it back 400 and
Really?
480 or 90 million
You know
dollars.
who the principal person is in that?
Yeah, it's what's her name's brother-in-law?
Nancy Pelosi.
Nancy Pelosi's brother-in-law.
Brother-in-law is the one that's the recipient of that Solyndra money.
Yeah, mercy. There ain't no end to it.
And he funnels a certain amount of it back to
Oh,
her
of course.
for her to purchase Botox.
Fellas, after Hillary, I don't think that we won't ever see this country come back, I don't believe, to anything like what we knew when we was growing up.
Nope.
I don't
hate
think
to say
it's
this, but
over.
I don't think so either. Without a complete revolution, then you have to worry about who will take over in the revolution.
That's right. In a revolution, it's just like this country. If we were to enter into any type of civil war, I don't know. You've got several factions. You take 3 or 4 of these factions go together and 3 or 4 other factions go together, and you have a civil war in this country. We destroy the infrastructure and everything else of it, and of course everybody is going to suffer. In that type of situation, everybody in the population will suffer. They'll suffer needs. Well,
Well, you know.
but here's the other thing.
If you stop the truck traffic in this country for 30 days,
It's all over.
you're going to have an awful lot of hungry and starving people.
You're gonna have
You block roads into New York for a week and you'd have a
yeah,
riot.
you'd have a
Yeah.
riot. But the thing of it is, if this country ever does that, if we ever have an open revolt, there's countries on the sideline that are sitting and waiting that would move in
Oh yeah,
and
they're
take us over in a
organized.
heartbeat. There's organized country.
See, that's what
Russia,
happened with the Egyptian Spring.
well, yeah.
The Muslim Brotherhood was sitting there just poised and waiting for Obama to stir up all those problems over there, and then they went in there and took over. But you had enough strength in the military there. They said, no, there ain't going to be no day like this. So they straightened
Yeah.
things out.
we have some, in our military, we have some good people and strong Americans. We also, I think, in our military, we have a lot of people of a lot of different beliefs that have joined the military in order to acquire citizenship and a lot of other things. And how do you know what's inside a person's head?
Well, you know, I hope, you know, at my age, I'll probably never see it, and I hope I don't. But you got to understand who has the firepower in this country. Okay? And
I think that's
it's
pretty
not-
obvious.
It's not the left-wing radicals. They
No.
got a few of them that's got AK-47s
Right.
and that sort of thing. But you take your good, solid American citizens who own their home, have their family. They're the ones that are loaded for bear, and they're the ones I've said many a time that there's nothing more dangerous or meaner than a hungry white man.
The thing, if you ever had the military, the civilian population to have to go against the military, that would be a disaster.
Well, but the thing about it is the military more than likely would stay out of a conflict. We got to worry about the Homeland Security people and Obama's own personal police force. You
Well-
see, not necessarily the military.
I got to ask you a question. If you need an ambulance, who you going to call?
What?
You need an ambulance, who you going to call?
Well, even if there was a rebellion or whatever, I'm sure that there wouldn't be but one number you would need to call, and that's 562-9370. Now, if you have an emergency other than medical transportation, you might want. What's the number for 911?
Well, we better not get this wrong.
Okay.
I believe it's 911.
Okay, all right. If you have an emergency other than needing medical transportation, you need to call 911. And if you can't remember 562-9370, which is Vital Care Medical Transport, a privately owned ambulance service here that does not require any taxpayer money to fund its operation. Been in business, these people have for almost 40 years. You can call them at 562-9370 and they will come and get you and take you where you need to go as speedily and as safely as possible. And that's Vital Care Medical Transport.
562-9370.
Oh, 9370. Right now. You will not get propane at that number.
No, no.
Well, Bob, back to what I was going to say. I had a conversation with a person of the military, special forces, whatever. He wasn't in the Army, he was in another branch. And he said that the only time he was ever spoken to by anybody of high rank, such as a general, is they was called into formation. And they went down the line and asked everybody in the line, if so ordered, would they fire on American citizens? Yes or no? They was asked if they were ordered to fire, if so ordered, would they fire on American citizens?
Right.
And all they had to do was say yes or no. And why would such a question be asked?
Well, first of all, they're by the Constitution, which won't mean a whole lot at that time because they'd be a total rebellion. The Constitution says that they're not to ever fire on American citizens.
Well,
Even
the
though Obama
Constitution,
can blow them up over there in Yemen, you know, but
it seems to me like the Constitution is being misused
You know,
every
you got
day.
the Posse Comitatus Act, which is not a Constitution thing, but it's an act of Congress where they can't use the military for police operations in the United States. But that was passed after the Civil War.
Okay. The president has signed executive orders saying that people can cross the border and stay here, and they put enough whatever in there, and I read a little article on it today. If a lady is pregnant, or a woman or whatever comes across the border, has that child on U.S. soil, it's a
it's
citizen.
been that way for years, yeah.
I like the way you qualified that, a lady or a woman.
Right, yeah,
Well,
you know,
I've been raised
the
not to say
Chinese
certain things.
now are booking passage
Yes,
to
they
this
are.
country when their women are supposed
Ready to deliver.
so their child will be born in the United States.
American citizens.
Now, with
Sure
all
do.
of our faults, that speaks very well for our country that they would want to be born here in this country.
That appears to me that they are more than willing to take advantage of whatever benefits we have left here.
Well, I'm sure that's correct.
So,
yeah.
Ethically, that's not very sound. That's where you get back to where does the end justify the means, is what that boils down
Well,
to.
yeah, well, you know,
And
that's in the Democratic Handbook. That's
I'd
the
say-
playbook, you know.
well, fellas, it's going to be interesting
Oh,
to see where things
you know,
go.
I hate it for the country. To me, I always did enjoy a good fireworks show.
And we about got this show
Yeah,
over
we
with.
have.
Let's light the firecrackers and go to the house.
Well, I think we'll do that, folks. We'll see you Saturday on WLAF 1450 or WLAF FM 100.9 or here again on UGTV.tv. See ya.
At 4 p.m.
Huh?
At 4 o'clock.
Right.